Hey yo, salute to the people. It's the Social Forecast. If you're new to the channel, I invite you to stay a while. So like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to hit the notification bell for all notifications on future content. All right, let's get into it. Jussie Smollett was arrested on felony charges. One count felony charge for falsely reporting a crime. And then the other charge, I believe, something to do with fraud or something to that effect. Now, I spoke on this story when it first dropped. Kind of voiced my opinions on me feeling like something wasn't quite right with the situation, but that's not really what I wanted to come on and talk about today. So of course we found out late last night, early this morning, that Jussie Smollett turned himself in, knew that he was wanted by the police, so he was officially arrested. He's going to be facing, or he's going to be heading to his arraignment in the next the next 24 to 48 hours. But that's not what I wanted to talk about either. Now, I'm on record on this channel is saying this. It's kind of what I pride myself on, both in my personal life as well as on any of my public platforms. I am an equal opportunity asshole. I definitely don't mince words. I don't bite my tongue. I hold people accountable. But at the same time, I got to give it up when those people, who I hold accountable, stand up and actually be accounted for. So I got to give a thank you to the LGBTQ community. I'm very hard on the LGBTQ community. My sister Jasmine from the Comfort Zone, salute to her, can attest to this, because we go back and forth often on a lot of our cross-platform content. And I actually wanted her to get in on this blog with me, but I don't know. It is what it is. But the reason why I want to say thank you to the LGBTQ community is because I don't know how many of you do, but I follow Star from Star and Buck Wild. I've been following him since, Jesus Christ, since I've been in high school, a long time. And he has a YouTube channel, and he does a daily show, and he's been doing this kind of 5-show campaign on Jussie Smollett. I think today was the 5th show, where he's really been going in hard on him. And Star was one of the first, as far as publicly, to voice that he didn't really like the sound of Jussie Smollett's attack story. There were some key points that I had pointed out early on, but Star was really going hard from the beginning. And today on his show, which I was watching a little bit earlier, he was talking about how he was asking callers to call in and comment about what they felt was the reason behind Jussie Smollett's behavior. Now, for those of you who follow my platform, those of you who know me personally, you know that this has been a long-standing theory and philosophy of mine, and scientific fact. All behavior is learned. No one's born with any particular set of behavioral patterns. For those of you who might assume, you think where I'm going with this has nothing to do with being homosexual or how you identify sexually, anything of that nature. When I say all behavior is learned, I mean the physical manifestation of behavior. Whatever goes on in a person's head, whatever environmental influences a person may or may not have, at the end of the day, there's still actions that people choose to take or not take. And those behavioral patterns are learned. They're learned from the people who raise us. They're learned from the people who we are exposed to day in and day out. They are a product of different things that we consume, be it television, music, whatever it is. All behavior is learned. And so some of the callers were calling in, and a common theme that I heard was callers saying that it was Jussie Smollett's parents' fault. They were to blame largely for his narcissistic behavior, his lying in this attack report, and then some people were blaming, the success that he's had on the show Empire and whatever success he's been able to achieve through his music, and saying that it has caused him to have a very high need for attention, and I guess there were some rumors about the Empire show ending. Which, let me take a side note too. A lot of people are trashing Empire. Everyone talks about how they watched the first season and that was it. Actually, one of the few people who up until this most recent season still follow Empire. I like the show. I think that the storyline was progressing along pretty well, actually. I think it wasn't until they started really killing off all the fucking characters that you actually came to like. That's when I really kind of was like, all right, it's starting to get a little bit dry, and it started to seem like they were just reaching for straws and just different random drama just to keep the show relevant or worth watching. But anyway, so back to my point. So, two things I want to talk about. I'm a big proponent of parenting and raising your children and going about it a certain way, because yes, I do believe in a lot of ways that our children do get their cues early on in life from us, and then whatever behaviors we influence or reinforce will set them up for what they're going to be like in their adult lives. Having said that, though, unless you're just not taught right from wrong at all, I don't like the idea of people blaming an individual's parents for them knowing right from wrong and choosing to do wrong. I don't care what you identify as. I don't care what your orientation is. I don't care what culture or race you identify as. If you are multicultural or multiracial, it really doesn't matter. We all know right from wrong. We all know that we live in a system that is governed by laws, that is governed by different policies, and there's a way to act morally, and there's a way to carry yourself legally. And when you step outside those lines or you violate those things, then you and you alone should be held accountable for that. I don't pacify adults. That's what I started off this blog by saying. I don't pacify adults. There's little in the way of empathy when it comes from me in regards to adults who give reasons for why they do fuck shit. And this is fuck shit, and I'm going to get into in a second. It's one of the other things I wanted to talk about, why this is fuck shit, more than just the obvious. Now, with the Me Too movement that we currently live in and are surrounded by, with what rape culture is, with what all of the gender double standards are, I come down very hard on women who accuse men of sexual assault, rape, all these different sexually charged offenses, and they are not true. I come down very hard on women who do that. Most notably and most recently, what happened with Chris Brown, what was alleged to have happened with the whole Jasmine Elon thing in the nightclub, and it would be not just irresponsible, but it would be extremely unfair for me to come down on women for their false allegations and the things that they do to jam men up when those things are not true. I have to come down on anybody else the same. This is not about me picking on a community. It's not about me picking on a gender. It's just that at the end of the day, after you strip away all the bullshit, right is right and wrong is wrong. And that's what this platform is about, and that's what I stand on. And I'll fight anybody, debate anybody on that, no matter what, win, lose, or draw, because that's just how my moral compass is calculated and calibrated, and it just is what it is. So, over and over and over and over again on this platform, and I have gotten into many debates, I've gotten into many healthy arguments, because I'm always saying how the LGBTQ community, while they're so quick to stand up and support their own, and rightfully so, they should be, that's how things should be. But on my record is saying that I'm always seeing the members of that community last to come up, step up to the forefront and drag their own when some shit don't smell right, don't pass the smell test. And I gotta say, and this is why I want to shout out the LGBTQ community. In the few things that I've come across online, and the few shows that I've watched, listened to, callers and commenters that I've observed, it seems like the LGBTQ community is really upset over this whole Jussie Smollett thing. In regards to it coming out that his reports were false and fraudulent. And I respect that, and I salute it, because look, the same way that we can criticize each other when we don't do what we're supposed to is the same way that I think we have to stand up and recognize when the right thing is done. Now I'm going to get into why I think, why I hope Jussie Smollett seriously does jail time. Although I don't think he will. I think, he may get off with probation. He may get off with some kind of an administrative thing. We'll see what comes of that. What he's facing, I guess, carries up to a year in jail. I could be off, but I think last I checked, that was the possible penalty for the charges that he's facing. Some people were saying he should do at least 6 months. I don't really think he's going to get any time. The resources, the ability to hire a high-powered lawyer. I don't know his criminal history, if there is any, but if he doesn't have a record, all of these things come into play and serve toward being considered as mitigating circumstances. So it's very unlikely that he's going to do any actual time or be sentenced to any actual time behind this. Having said that, though, I 100% feel that he should. I think that he should have to do a mandatory 1 year in jail, not just because of his crime, although it is serious. It's bad enough that you play the victim and falsely accuse a crime. But when you falsely accuse a crime that has a hate element attached to it, that's when the book should really be thrown at you. And this is the other part of what I wanted to talk about, and the more serious part of what I wanted to talk about. And this is why I want to thank the LGBTQ community for those people who have stood up and said, nah, this is not cool, bro. Get him the fuck out of here. And he needs to get the fuck out of here forever. He needs to be canceled off of the show Empire. I mean, the show's probably on its last leg anyway. But he needs to be canceled from Hollywood, from entertainment, never booked again for a show, never booked again for another acting gig. Because, and this, is one thing that the Black community and the LGBTQ community share in alike, despite whatever perceived differences or disagreements over the years that the two communities have had. And this is uttered by countless other people, not just me. I think the Black community and the LGBTQ community have the most in common. Two minority groups who went through a great deal of persecution and had to endure a great struggle to just achieve rights that everyone else had by default. And so I always parallel the two communities, and almost everything that I talk about on this platform, no matter who I have on or what the show is or what the topic is, seems to always somehow go back to, in some way, shape, or form, the Black struggle and the struggle of the LGBTQ community, which I feel is very parallel in a lot of ways, at least. And so when you have someone who accuses something as heinous as what was accused, when you talk about someone putting a noose around your neck, when you talk about, the slurs pertaining to your sexual orientation that were supposedly said during this alleged attack, that puts two communities on high alert, and that puts a country on high alert that has been forced in recent years to really stand up and pay attention to the plight of these different groups who have been persecuted, treated unfairly, attacked, killed, and whatever else throughout this country's history. And it's hard enough for those of us, and I'm going to encompass everyone in this, it's hard enough to fight real injustices. It's hard enough to fight against the system for things that must change because they are actually done that are wrong. Anything, even if it's just one case, anything that comes out to be false, to be exaggerated, to be fraudulently portrayed, it hurts the movement, and it sets all of us back 50 years. Because now, and somebody mentioned this on one of the shows that I was listening to, and I can't recall who it was, but now for the next several years, every time there is an incident, whether, in my opinion, whether it's against the gay community or whether it's against just black community, there's going to be more scrutiny. There's going to be more skepticism behind it, because it's going to be like, okay, well, we recall, got Jussie Smollett, homosexual actor from Empire, falsely reported, being attacked. Is this another one of those situations? So it sets the whole movement back. It sets all of the accomplishments that the LGBTQ community has been able to acquire over the years and throughout their struggle. It sets the whole community back, and it's a huge disservice. It's irresponsible. It's irresponsible anyway to play the victim when you are not the victim. I think it's disrespectful to countless number of victims who are out there, but then it also casts the wrong type of spotlight on a movement, especially in a country that is already racially divided, that has been racially divided for a very long time. But in recent years, with our current president, those some of those thoughts and feelings and fears of I don't want to say white America, but white America, have really come back to the forefront. And now it's like it's a struggle, and it's a fight all over again. We don't need situations like this from people who should be acting responsibly, throwing fuel on that fire. So I hope that because of the nature of the crime and the charges that are pending against Jussie Smollett, I hope that the Chicago Police Department and whoever else is involved in this case from the law enforcement standpoint, I hope they really push hard for there to be a very harsh reality and wake-up call for this individual, because there needs to be a message sent that this type of shit is not okay, it should not happen, and that more importantly, that it will be dealt with. And I think if the example is set with Jussie Smollett, I think that may trickle down to some of the other claims, false allegations, fraudulent reports of victimizations that happen. And then again, I'm not ever belittling, marginalizing, minimizing anybody's pain who has truly been victimized. I just don't have the patience for people who perpetrate that fraudulently. So stop by to say thanks to the LGBTQ community. I definitely salute those of you who were real enough, had the integrity enough to stand up and say, listen, he's one of us, but nah, we can't support him in this. And for those of you who stayed quiet, I think you should take a long look at yourself. I don't care who I identify with. I don't care what I identify as and who I stand up for, with and behind. If they're wrong, they're wrong. At the end of the day, it's not about family. It's not about like causes. It's not about political alliances. It's not about any of those things, more so than it's about right and wrong. It's right and wrong first, and then I can choose where my alliances best lie and what I want to give my loyalty to. So salute to the LGBTQ community for finally standing up and actually saying, nah, this is one of our own, but get him the fuck out of here. We can't have that, because it's not only a bad reflection on us, it's a bad reflection on the whole community, going forward for whatever issues we may have to deal with down the line, as far as the LGBTQ community goes. And as far as me, speaking for the black community, get him the fuck out of here, because this is something that sets us back as well. So it's what I think about that situation. Let me know what y'all think. Like, comment, and subscribe. Straight Talk 315 at Gmail. If y'all want to hit me up about anything, be it any content, be it just to talk shit and go back and forth with me. If you want to be a part of a stream, you want to come on and do a blog with me, live or recorded, what have you, come on and let me know. All of my social media links are in the description box of this video as well as all of my other videos, as well as on the about page on this YouTube channel. Featured channels, The Comfort Zone, Chilling with Key, both featured channels on my main YouTube page. And until next time, I'll see you on the next one. I don't pretend to know everything, I just know what I know. Like, comment, and subscribe. Peace and love.